Smoked beef brisket. Texas smoked brisket is the most studied and debated barbecue preparation in American food culture. A full packer brisket weighs between 8 and 16 pounds and requires 12 to 16 hours of oak smoke at 225 degrees to reach the temperature where collagen converts to gelatin and the meat becomes sliceable. The bark, the dark exterior crust of rendered fat and dried spice rub, is considered a delicacy by barbecue purists. Franklin BBQ in Austin has had lines beginning before dawn every single day since it opened in 2009. People wait 4 hours. Nobody has reported regretting it.
Alabama white chicken. Alabama white sauce BBQ exists almost nowhere outside Alabama and is considered by the rest of the country to be either a revelation or a mistake, depending on who you ask. The sauce was invented by Robert Gibson at Big Bob Gibson Bar BBQ in Decatur, Alabama in 1925. It contains mayonnaise, apple cider vinegar, horseradish, and black pepper. No tomato, no sugar, no red color of any kind. Gibson dunked whole smoked chickens into vats of the sauce before serving. The combination of smoke, tangy mayonnaise, and vinegar creates a flavor profile that red BBQ sauce cannot replicate. Alabama has been keeping this secret from the rest of the country for 100 years.
Beef dino rib. Beef plate ribs are called dinosaur ribs because a single rib can weigh over 1 kilogram and looks large enough to belong to a prehistoric animal. They come from the short plate section of the cow, between the brisket and the flank, and contain a thick layer of meat over the bone that brisket cannot match for visual drama. A properly smoked beef rib develops a bark so dark it appears black, with interior meat so tender it pulls away from the bone with no resistance. Texas BBQ joints that added beef ribs to their menus in the 2010s reported them selling out within hours of opening every day. A cut that looks like a prop from a cartoon became the most photogenic item in American BBQ.
Honey glazed pork belly. Pork belly BBQ became mainstream in American restaurants in the 2000s when chefs discovered that the alternating layers of fat and meat produced a result when slow smoked that no leaner cut could replicate. The honey glaze applied in the final stage of cooking caramelizes over the smoke-darkened exterior, creating a lacquered surface that shatters when cut. Korean BBQ culture, which had been smoking and grilling pork belly for decades, watched American BBQ discover something they already knew and responded with polite silence. The honey-glazed pork belly that appeared on American BBQ menus at premium prices had been eaten at Korean backyard grills for a fraction of the cost for generations.
Jalapeno cheddar sausage. Texas barbecue sausage is a separate tradition from European sausage making and developed specifically in the German immigrant communities of Central Texas in the 19th century. German butchers applied their traditional sausage techniques to Texas beef and combined them with local ingredients including jalapenos and cheddar cheese. The result, a coarsely ground beef sausage that crisps on the outside while the cheese melts inside and the jalapeno provides measured heat, became one of the defining products of Texas barbecue. Elgin, Texas calls itself the sausage capital of Texas and has been making this argument officially since 1995. The German immigrants who created Texas barbecue sausage would not recognize the dish they produced as German. It is entirely Texan.
Pulled pork sandwich. Pulled pork requires cooking a pork shoulder at 225 degrees for 10 to 18 hours until the internal temperature reaches 203 degrees and the collagen dissolves completely. The meat then falls apart on contact. Carolina BBQ is built around this cut. North Carolina uses vinegar sauce. South Carolina uses mustard. Tennessee uses tomato. Kansas City uses a thick, sweet sauce. Each region considers the others wrong. This argument has been ongoing since the 18th century. Competition BBQ is a sanctioned sport with rulebooks, judges, and cash prizes. Teams spend thousands of dollars on equipment to compete in categories that the regions themselves cannot agree on. A method of cooking cheap pork became a competitive discipline with more passionate adherents than most professional sports. Smoked turkey breast. Smoked turkey breast became a barbecue staple in Texas for a specific reason. People who did not eat pork needed something at the barbecue joint. Texas pitmasters began smoking whole turkey breasts using the same oak wood and low and slow technique applied to brisket. The results surprised everyone, including the pitmasters. Turkey breast absorbs smoke differently than beef, producing a cleaner, lighter flavor that regulars began ordering alongside brisket rather than instead of it.
Franklin BBQ added smoked turkey to their menu in 2012, and it sold out as reliably as the brisket. A dietary accommodation became one of the most requested items at the most famous barbecue restaurant in America. St. Louis red glazed ribs. St. Louis style ribs are spare ribs with the sternum bone, cartilage, and rib tips removed to create a flat rectangular rack that cooks evenly. A butcher in St. Louis developed the cut in the 1930s to make spare ribs easier to manage on a grill. The red glaze, a tomato and molasses-based sauce applied in layers during the final hour of cooking, builds into a sticky, caramelized coating that produces the characteristic shine of competition BBQ ribs. At the Memphis in May World Championship Barbecue Cooking Contest, the largest BBQ competition in the world, ribs are the most competitive category. Teams practice year-round for a single weekend of judging. A butcher's practical modification became the format for the most contested BBQ category on Earth.
Baby back ribs. Baby back ribs have nothing to do with babies. The name comes from the fact that these ribs are shorter than spare ribs and sit higher up on the pig's back, closer to the spine. They are the most ordered rib cut at American restaurants by a significant margin. Chili's built an entire brand identity around baby back ribs in 1994, with a jingle so effective that people still sing it 30 years later unprompted. The ribs themselves take 3 to 4 hours to cook properly. The jingle took less than 30 seconds to become permanently embedded in the American brain.
Lechon. Lechon is a whole roasted pig cooked over an open fire for hours until the skin becomes shatteringly crispy and the meat inside falls from the bone. It is the national dish of the Philippines and a centerpiece of celebrations across Latin America and the Caribbean. In Puerto Rico, lechon is so important that the town of Guavate has an entire highway known as the Lechon Highway, lined with restaurants serving nothing but whole roasted pig. Filipino communities in the United States recreate lechon at every major celebration. The logistics of roasting a whole pig over an open fire in a suburban American backyard have never discouraged anyone from attempting it.
Porchetta. Porchetta is a whole deboned pig stuffed with herbs, garlic, and fennel, rolled tightly and slow roasted until the exterior skin becomes a crackling shell surrounding layers of herb-perfumed meat and fat. It originated in central Italy and has been sold from roadside trucks at Italian markets and festivals for centuries. Italian immigrants brought porchetta to the United States, where it became popular at Italian-American festivals and eventually crossed into mainstream restaurant culture in the 2000s. The porchetta sandwich, thick slices of herb-stuffed pork on crusty bread with the crackling skin intact, is now one of the most sought-after street food items at American food markets.
Medium well. Medium well steak is cooked to an internal temperature of 150 to 155 degrees Fahrenheit. A small amount of pink remains in the very center, but the rest of the meat is gray and firm. Professional chefs will cook it without complaint. They will not recommend it. The moisture content has dropped significantly from medium, which means the steak is noticeably drier and tougher than anything below it on the doneness scale. Medium well exists for people who want the reassurance of almost no pink without committing to the full disappointment of well done. It is the compromise that satisfies nobody completely.